For a government which has, as literally one of its missions, which concerns violence against women and girls, it is deeply awkward, if not corrosive, actually, to be in this position where the Prime Minister of the day has to get up and basically defend someone who we now know is basically the best friend of one of the biggest paedophiles who have ever lived.
Yeah.
That's the situation that we've been in this week. And it has done nothing for Starmer's authority or standing, which is already pretty ropey with Labour MPs at the moment.
In light of additional information in emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States. The emails show, Mr. Speaker, that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. In particular, Mr. Speaker, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. And in light of that, Mr. Speaker, and mindful, as we all are, of the victims of Epstein's appalling crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
So that was the news that I think everybody felt in their bones was coming, that Peter Mandelson has been dismissed as our ambassador to the United States. That's coming after the revelations emerging. I say revelations, I mean nearly all of it was known, but sort of revelations, the letters that we saw sent to Jeffrey Epstein. Keir Starmer decided to reverse his decision to appoint Mandelson, which came in December. They said they wanted a big figure in Washington during the Trump administration. Generally speaking, I think by common consent, he was doing a good job in terms of getting close to the Trump administration. But this issue, this albatross around his neck, as he called it, has cost him for the third time, Peter Mandelson, third time, a very big job in public life. And almost certainly, I think it feels, will be the end of his time in politics.
When we talked about this on the show yesterday, it felt that things were coming to a head, but there were many, even in the party, who thought that he could sort of live this one out, stand this one out, particularly with the state visit coming. I think what really clinched it was that drop of emails that came later in the afternoon, just after we published, from Bloomberg and Sun, in which it was revealed that he had essentially been petitioning for the early release of the man who went on to become the world's worst paedophile.
And advising him that he needed a media strategy.
He needed a media strategy, and he was telling him about Sun Tzu, the art of war, how to stand up. It was one particular tweet, it was one particular email where he said, "You've got to fight for this. This would never happen in Britain." And I think at that point, the people that I was talking to within the Labour Party started to realise that it was getting really, really hard to justify. Last night I was speaking to some who were quite close to the Prime Minister there. And one person, when I asked if Peter Mandelson could stay, just said, "I'm absolutely not going to speak about this." And the fact that they didn't even bother to push back or to try and convince me or to say, well, let's not take this out of context, or let's not just go the way that the opposition want us to go with a scalp, I think started to tell me that minds were being made up. Later that night, I was having conversations with people who said that the whole the Parliamentary Labour Party is of one mind. He has to go. And that same person said that they thought they'd wake up this morning and find that he was already gone. Now, in fact, the whole process was a little bit more complicated because it started with an urgent question that Neil O'Brien, the Conservatives, called, and it would have been Yvette Cooper, now Foreign Secretary, who had to respond because the ambassadorial roles go through the Foreign Commonwealth Office. And the indication I got was that Yvette Cooper would not have been prepared to stand up and answer that urgent question until she had had complete confirmation from the Prime Minister that Peter Mandelson would no longer be in the job. I was on a bike at about 10 o'clock. I got a phone call. I thought, I'm not going to answer this or I will die. But that phone call, coming as it did at that time, told me everything I needed to know, which was that the resignation was imminent. And things happened pretty quickly. It sounds as if it was Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, first thing this morning saying, we actually can't get through the rest of the day, knowing what we now know, that Peter Mandelson tried to call for the early release of a paedophile from prison. It just doesn't stack up. And that's where we are now.
As I said, Mandelson's career likely over. Always brought down by wealth or his propensity to make very wealthy. It's the same story each time he's left government. It's basically been as a result, in one form or another, of a connection with a very wealthy friend of his that has gone wrong. This one most spectacularly of all. I don't think the questions end for Keir Starmer, though. Keir Starmer, as we say, I mean, nearly all of this stuff was known. I mean, yes, some of the details of these letters on news that we saw released from the House of Representatives Committee. That's the kind of fragment that I think the government will cling to. They'll say that, look, we didn't know about these emails and the particular content of them. But nonetheless, Mandelson's relationship with Epstein was very well documented. It was very well known. It was all well known when Starmer made the decision. So there will be calls now for an exact timeline of what Starmer knew when and what the vetting process was going to be. I think that Number 10 will probably be able to ride that out, because I think the air already feels like it's going out of this story. But of course, again, you've got a lot of pissed off Labour MPs. You just alluded to it, Emily. There was no one in the Parliamentary Labour Party who wanted to defend Mandelson. They didn't like it when Starmer defended him at Prime Minister's questions just yesterday.
I'm not sure they liked it when he was appointed.
No, most of them didn't like it when they. But then I just see the logic. But for a government which has as literally one of its missions, which concerns violence against women and girls, it is deeply awkward, if not corrosive, actually, to be in this position where the Prime Minister of the day has to get up and basically defend someone who we now know is basically the best friend of one of the biggest paedophiles who have ever lived. Yeah. That's the situation that we've been in this week. And it has done nothing for Starmer's authority or standing, which is already pretty ropey with Labour MPs at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the first question that we asked, which is, why was it always deemed so necessary to appoint him? I mean, he had a very trusted ambassador there, before, who got on very well with Trump in sort of the previous years. And there will be plenty of people who think that is the best job they could ever have. There are plenty of people who'd be willing to take that job who do not have scandal-ridden backgrounds. So I guess that is the complication. What led Starmer down that track? And I guess he thought it was all about the trade deal. And, everyone said that Mandelson's done an incredibly good job. He clearly got on well with Trump. He sort of smoothed the waters. I mean, frankly, I'm not sure that the trade deal has yet yielded anything that we couldn't have got with anyone else yet. I mean, we still don't know where the tariffs are on aluminium and steel. We still don't know if they've actually implemented the 10% deal. I guess we're going to see how the state visit goes. That starts next Wednesday without Peter Mandelson. Yeah. And I guess that was partly why this was such an urgent matter, right? That Starmer couldn't see the countdown to that visit being clouded every day by another email.
Well, you can see the logic at the time, which is that, this navigating this administration required a hyper-political figure, someone who understood politics to his fingertips, perhaps more than a traditional diplomat might have done. And Mandelson is, to his fingertips, a hyper-political figure and master of communication. He's been knocking around Labour politics since the 1980s. So I could sort of see the logic. But what Labour MPs will be saying now is that, look, there were plenty of people who counselled against you at the time on this because it was just too high risk. And of course, now as well, you can see another reason why Starmer wanted to cling on to Mandelson, which is it's actually now deeply awkward with the Trump administration, right? Which is that,
suddenly the British government doesn't like paedophiles.
Well, if the reason Mandelson had to go is because he had a close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, who else had a very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? In exactly the same fashion. Well, it was Donald Trump. Yeah. Now, it will have, and I wonder if this is entirely coincidental. It might be, I don't know. But, given the nature of the news that we've just been talking about with Charlie Kirk, that's dominating US news at the moment. So this will be lower down the US news running orders than it would have been. Almost non-existent. So it will minimise the kind of publicity damage with regards to that, and maybe with the Trump administration who are distracted. But nonetheless, it remains deeply awkward.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.